Okay, good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Assessing Your Current InfoPath Investment, Qdabra Scanner Tool. My name is Bree Houston, and I am going to be your presenter this morning. I am a form designer here at Qdabra Software, and I am very excited this morning to give you a closer look at our newest kind of tool, if you will, to be used on SharePoint called the Site Scanner Tool. And you may remember back in October, we quickly kind of did an overview of this app, and it's gone through quite a bit of development since that time. So I'm excited to share with you all this morning all of those great improvements and do a little demo to kind of show off all the features in this tool. So before we get started, just to give you a glimpse of what we've been doing recently, these are our past webinars. Listed in the gray at the top. So we've been going through an after InfoPath series, which there's been a lot of kind of uncertainty from people. So our goal with this series was to really inform and kind of put people at ease as far as all of what's going on with InfoPath, but also that with the scanner app, that InfoPath isn't going away yet, and there's still a lot of value and a value in your current investment. So that's all parts of the scanner app. A few upcoming webinars, all available on our YouTube channel. And again, this slide presentation will be available after the webinar is done today. So the way that I like to think about kind of InfoPath and the way that data travels is kind of as a US roadmap. So essentially, we have our infrastructure of paths of travel, and those paths of travel aren't necessarily going to change. The way that we get from point A to point B may adapt a little bit. And the site scanner really does one of two things. It helps you to kind of figure out maybe where that road construction is on a particular highway and be able to move past or patch that road work or create an entirely new route to get to your destination. So those are kind of the two ways that the site scanner app kind of helps you find your route. And again, there's many routes that you can travel from point A to point B, but the most important part is that your data and your form get you to your destination. Sometimes we take more direct routes, and sometimes we take more scenic or perhaps get lost, but always come back to kind of that endpoint. And migrating your forms is much like this path of travel, or even making improvements to your form. So when it comes to e-forms, and especially InfoPath, there's many different types of InfoPath forms, and these are kind of some basic groups that we've come up with. You have anything from a short form, maybe one page, very quick time to fill out, a bigger document with several views that takes a little bit longer to fill out. You have mobile forms that give your users the ability to take your forms anywhere. You have surveys that are maybe 5 to 50 questions. Dashboards that are really kind of a dynamic view of maybe some of your form data, and business apps. So these are all, again, different kinds of forms that all get you from your point A to point B. So what to do with all of these maps? Sometimes you have no idea how many maps may be lingering in your car or in your drawer. You have kind of maps stored away in different places, and this is the same on your SharePoint site when you have many different forms for different uses, and you may not know what all is contained within your site. And this information can be very hard to gather if you simply just start sifting through your site or your drawer to find those maps and forms, you know, one by one, taking them out, opening them up, sifting through the data and the connections. And this is really where the scanner app comes in. So the app allows you to, with the click of a button, browse your entire SharePoint site and return stats about your forms. So the first part of the scanner app is going to bring back the types of forms and all of the form templates listed on your site. So it breaks it down into the categories of available content types, libraries with InfoPath Forms, and lists with InfoPath Forms. So you can very quickly see where your templates are on your site. And then there's an ability in that same view to select an option and see details of your form. So this checkbox is next to the form you wish to see, and then it's going to scan the selected templates and allow you to view a lot of details about your form. So let's go through, and I'm going to break this presentation this morning into quite a few demos to keep things kind of interesting and moving. So we're going to explore the app and its contents to start with. We'll do a walkthrough of all of the sections and things that are pulled back from the form. Then we're going to go to a best practices section. So this is where you're going to get details about maybe how to improve your existing forms and investment to make them even better on your SharePoint site. And then I'm going to show kind of the real-time upload of a new form and the identification in the scanner app. So I'm going to switch now to my browser. And you can see I have my SharePoint site up right here. And in the future, the scanner app will be available as an app in your SharePoint site. But for right now, we're using this link here that we've created. And you can see that no information is returned to start, but I'm connected to my site scanner. And I'm going to click this refresh button right here. And that should pull back my templates. If not, we may just need to open our browser again. We've been having a little bit of browser trouble. So let me just quickly get to that. And I'll open another window as well. And our site scanner. And refresh. There we are. So you can see that the templates available are broken down into my available content types. You can see I have one form available there. And then my libraries with InfoPath Forms, I have 3 forms available. And then currently I do not have any list forms. So very quickly it identifies all of those templates on my site. And now I'm going to click on this details section. So I want to select my form template here. And if I was to select this one here, or all 3, it would open all 3 in separate windows. But for right now, I'm just going to open one. And it'll take just a minute for it to load and scan. And you can see that it's going to return a lot of data. So I'm going to just hint on some of the important things that you may be interested in your form. So the form properties, counting how many elements or fields are in your form, you can see it's returning 149. And the attributes, I have 7. And then for kind of a best practice, any node name starting with group or field are also returned. So I have 1 group and 2 fields. I have 7 views, 18 data connections, and 207 rules. So this is returning a lot of useful information. Then it's showing me my data connections, which data connections are on my load of the form. You can see there's quite a few. Then details about my views. If my form contains code, which will be important in a bit. And any promoted properties that are columns in my site library. So this is where we get into the best practices evaluation. And this is where you're going to find some kind of tips and tricks for making your forms better. So it'll go through the item and give you a status as to why that is the rating of your form, and then an analysis. So this is going to give you that kind of tip and direction for improvement in your form. So now I'm actually going to switch over to the designer and show you real-time an upload of an InfoPath form. So you saw in my site scanner I only had 3 form templates available. What I'm going to do is quickly publish this 4th form that is not on my site and create a new library. Like so, and publish. So once this form is done publishing, I'm actually going to go back to the scanner and refresh, and we should see this fourth option in our in our site scanner return. Okay, so publish was successful. Let's go back to the site scanner, and I'm going to click this refresh here. And you can see my expense report is now added to my library. Another nice kind of feature is that it's going to give you the count of the number of items in your library. So this can be helpful in determining how easy it might be to migrate a form to a separate location. So back to my slides here. Okay, so the scanner app. So this first part, it's identifying things like fields, data connections, number of rules, some very useful information. And again, there's way more information than you probably would want to use, but it's there if you want to use it. And what should you do with this information? It identifies the contents of your form, and it really breaks down all of these contents into really organized sections that are easy to kind of browse through. And it's useful for identifying InfoPath forms on your site, identifying the statistics about each form, and you can use this information to improve that form design. So that's really the first big part. Now I'm going to jump into kind of the second part, which is the migration. And we've been talking about migration a lot. And this is for those people that may be starting to do some planning, wanting some statistics and things to present to maybe their superiors about why the certain migration option may be good for their current investment in their forms technology. So again, I'm kind of breaking this down into my roadmap scenario. So I think of this, the level 1, and we have 3 levels. We have simple, moderate, and complex when we're identifying different types of forms. So the simple form is kind of the direct route. You want to get from point A to point B, not too complex, gets you where you need to go, and it's pretty simple and easy to follow. And I'm not going to jump into the details too much. Again, you're going to receive this after the webinar. But these are kind of the qualifiers that we're using to identify these level 1 forms. So very simple forms. And I'm actually going to jump into the designer now. So here I have my simple form. And you can see that my data source is pretty small. I have one view in my form. If I run my rules inspector, I only have one rule, so not too much going on in my form. And I don't have any data connections. And this form also contains no code. So now when I go back to the site scanner, I'm going to select that simple form and scan. So again, it's returning my form properties. I can see the element count. I have 20 fields on my form. I have one view. I have one rule. Now if we go down, and at the very bottom, we actually have this form analysis section. So you can see that it's giving my form a level 1 rating, a simple form. These are the qualifiers which are making it a level 1 form. And these are some possible recommendations for migration of this form. Things that would be compatible or that would be transferable for the kind of data and structure that I've already made in my form. So this is going to be useful for maybe investigating some of these other technologies as you start to think about migration. So again, I'm going to go back to my presentation. And this level 2. So level 2 is really going to be a bit more involved than our simple route. It's going to be a little bit more specific. Say you want to go specifically to the Seattle Center in Seattle. It's going to have a little bit more logic to get you where you want to go. And here's kind of the outline for our moderate forms. Again, not going to go too deeply into this, but you can kind of read through. We're going to be looking for things like repeating data, certain number of fields and rules in our form. So if I go again to the designer, here's the example of my moderate form. So we can see from our data source, it's a little bit more involved. I have a lot more fields. I have some repeating structures. Again, just some simple repeating structures. I go to my data connections. I have several data connections in my form. my views. I have 4 separate views in my form, and my rules inspector. So you can see I have quite a few more rules in my form. Now if we go back to our site scanner, this time I'm going to select the moderate form here. And you can see my element count is 67. I have 36 rules and enabled rules. It's showing my data connections. I have no code in my form, my best practices recommendation, and then my form analysis. So this is giving me a level 2 recommendation. Here are the qualifiers that it's recommending this form under. And then also the technologies that this form would really be compatible with. And I can show you both of these forms in also SharePoint. So our simple form here, we add a new. There's our simple form in the browser. And our moderate form. So again, kind of showing all of these different options in the browser. Okay, and we're actually going to go back to our sites once more. And this third level is getting into the complex. So this is going to be your route that you have kind of a really specific idea of where you want to go. You don't have to necessarily hit each point, but you would really like to see everything there is to see in your one trip. And you've thought of some specific streets to get you to your destination, maybe the optimized time to get from each place so that your travel time is the lowest. And you also have some kind of real-time check of obstacles and routes. So there's a lot of logic and things going on in this type of form. So our level 3 qualifiers, these are going to be your large forms, forms that have code, more than 5 views, getting into some pretty extensive pieces of your form. So if we go to the designer, I'm actually going to show our very own customer contact form. So this form has been designed, has many, many different fields, lots of logic. We have several different views here in our data, our rules inspector. You can see we have an extensive, keep scrolling list of different rules. And this form actually contains a bit of code. So if we go to our site and we go ahead and we open our complex customer contact form, we'll go to a new form. Looks like we're having some difficulty there. Anyways, it would open there. And now we're going to scan that customer contact form. And you can see my form properties. So my element count is at 149. I have 207 rules. My repeating data structure is more complex. This is where you get into kind of that nested repeating data. And you can see all of our data connections, quite a few, our views, and our form contains code. So our best practices, again, giving an evaluation. And then our form analysis. So this one is showing a level 3 complex form, and here are all the qualifiers that are making it a level 3, and some different recommendations. So you can see how the site scanner is really kind of your guide through this maze of forms. And whether it's simply taking a look at improving your existing forms and making them more robust on your SharePoint site, or looking at possible ways to migrate your forms in the future. There's really a lot of ways that the scanner app can be leveraged in your solution. So the benefits of the scanner app. You can really use it to again, evaluate what's there on your site currently and identify the contents and maybe some problem areas of your forms as well to make them into more best practices, as we like to say. We're all about best practices here. And then kind of that second part again is evaluating what might be the best migration option moving forward in the future and kind of maybe starting to plan for that. So at this point you may be interested in kind of the release of the Site Scanner app. So our release is set for June 2014, so this is up and coming very soon. And then the release will be alongside our Forms Viewer app. And the reason for this is that the two actually pair very well together. So the deployment will be very similar to the Forms Viewer app. If you were present for our March 20th webinar, we kind of went over how to deploy the app to your site currently. Very quick and easy. And there's also details on our Forms Quo site. But the reason that the Forms Viewer is kind of a good transition piece is that with a click of a button you can easily take these forms that you find on your site and use the Site Scanner app, the Forms Viewer app to fill out your forms. So this is again part of that migration. Easy to deploy and use, and it's going to be a free app. So a little bit more information on Forms Quo under the Assess section. And at this time, I'm going to open the floor to maybe some questions that have come up through the webinar. If you have a question, go ahead and type it into the dialogue, and we can definitely answer any of those questions. We'll give people a couple of minutes to maybe type an answer into our questions dialogue. Okay, it looks like there isn't any questions coming from our audience. So again, after the webinar, if you do by chance come by any questions, we're going to be sending out a kind of follow-up email with some links to the PowerPoint for download as well as links to the video if you would like to view again. And a little bit of information about our Forms Quo site. So this is about kind of assessing your current investment, extending your current data and maintaining, and then looking at migration as well if that is your intended path of travel. There's also going to be a short survey after the webinar today, and we really use that survey to help improve upcoming webinars and really give you the best, most current information. So if you have time, please fill that out. It helps us out quite a bit. And thank you for attending today's webinar. I hope you all enjoyed this look into the Site Scanner app and kind of how you can leverage it in your current form solution. Thank you to everyone, and I hope you have a great Thursday.